Welcome to Thriving Launch with Luis Congdon and Kamala Chambers, this show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all.
5 days a week, we bring you different segments to inspire you to live a life of freedom. We interview the leading experts in the field of business, health, and love. Be sure to check out Training Tuesdays, where we give you a clear action plan to grow your own business.
How would you like to be able to interview world-class experts, sit down and have chats with people like Jack Canfield, Marianne Williamson, Robert Kiyosaki, Tim Ferriss, you name it? Would you love to interview other people that you really admire and consider to be your heroes? Well, we've created a course for you that teaches you how to podcast, how to set it all up, and how to get going so that you can really have a successful show and you can do it properly. Over at thrivinglaunch.com, we have a podcasting course, and it's there for you, waiting for you to snatch it up. So head on over to thrivinglaunch.com and let me teach you how to podcast the right way. Hey, welcome to the special Monday episode where we dive deep into the lives or things that Kamala and I want to teach you. Today, I want to really have the opportunity to sit down with you and just tell you a little bit about who I am, why Thriving Launch is so special to me, and also so we get to know each other. A lot of people don't know that I was born in Medellin, Colombia in 1983. I was adopted after being homeless for 3 years living on the streets in Colombia. I was adopted at the age of 8 years old to a family in Seattle, Washington, American parents, and I had to learn English and come to Seattle, Washington in a time period when there really wasn't a lot of Latinos living in Washington State. This is a very interesting time period, 1991. George Bush was president. The 80s, I was born in 1983, were a very tumultuous time in Medellin, Colombia, where I was born. Pablo Escobar was in power. The cocaine cartel and mafia was kind of at its height during this time period. When I was born, my mother was 25 years old. She had 3 kids, and my dad had left. So I never met my dad. I didn't know him until I was 18 years old, which I'll talk more about that in some later episodes. So I've had a very unique and different life, and yet it's a life that connects with a lot of people because when I was born, my mom was a drug addict. She would leave the house all day long. She would come home, do more drugs. She had a very promiscuous lifestyle. She was a very wild woman, to say the least. And then when I was 5 years old, my mother was actually murdered because she had some drug debts. And I was left homeless with my homeless uncle who I lived with. So we would travel from home to home and kind of get by this way by staying at different people's houses. He was a live-in maid for different periods of times. He would, stay at someone's home and work inside their home in exchange for a place to live and for food and maybe a little bit of a compensation monetarily. So he didn't really make very much money, and we lived from home to home or on the streets. And that's the first 5-8 years of my life. Then through crazy turn of events, I was put into an orphanage by a group of people that I've never met. And this was actually one side of my family that I'd never met. So my dad's side of the family had me put into an orphanage. I was adopted, came to the United States in 1991. George Bush was president, Seattle, Washington, and not a lot of people that far up north were Latinos. So the very first school I went to, not a single person in the whole grade school spoke Spanish. So I went to that school for a very short period of time, was transferred to another school where there was maybe a handful of Spanish-speaking kids in the whole school. And for me, this is important to share with you because this really, in a lot of ways, they say that the first 8 years of our life really shapes who we are or who we'll become later on in life. And for me, it's important to share this with you because this later led me to work in the nonprofit sector, working with homeless families, homeless kids, mentoring at-risk youth, working with kids in urban cities, and utilizing poetry and art and literature as a way to help them find a voice. Then going on and teaching language courses in different parts of the world. Then later joining more nonprofits and working with Dr. John and Julie Gottman and teaching the work of the Gottmans in one of the nation's largest research project on marriage education, and working with nearly 300 married couples and helping a lot of couples find love, find what are the keys to a successful marriage, a successful relationship. So all of that by the time I was 28 years old has happened in my life. And then the next few years after that, I was homeless again. I've been homeless twice as an adult. So there's something about childhood that it sets this kind of precedent for what will happen later. And for a long time, I dealt with personal issues around money, feeling poor, feeling impoverished, and I became homeless as an adult and really got to this place where I wanted to figure out, what is it going to take for me to free myself of this poverty mindset, of the pain that I've been carrying around in regards to my childhood and everything else that had happened to me? So at some point, I decided to start my own business. I went into that and really loved it. Kamala, the co-host, who you've heard from already, she joined me and we went on this mission of starting an online business. Since then, my finances have skyrocketed. My travels have skyrocketed. I've been to so many countries with Kamala now. We're running an online business. It's been very special. And for right now, I just wanted to give you a nutshell of who I am and how that informs the reasons why I might bring on people who specialize in business, people who specialize in meditation, people who specialize in psychology, relationships, mindset. All this stuff has really been very important to me in trying to free myself from my own demons. And it's a real honor for me to create this show for you. I want to thank you so much for tuning in with me. And as we dive deeper together, I'd love to open up more with you and tell you more about my story, find out about who you are, which you're welcome to write me at thrivinglaunch.com. Head on over to thrivinglaunch.com. Go over to the contact page and go ahead and send me a message. If you just send it there in the little box or to team@thrivinglaunch.com, you can send me a letter. I'd love to find out who you are. If you have any questions or any guests that you'd like to see on the show, I'd really love to connect with you. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me, and I'll see you on tomorrow's episode.
You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there.
Be sure to listen to our next episode with Aaron Anastasi, where we talk about how to be more positive to increase success in any area of your life.